Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And now one of the more well-known Washington National fans, Dr. Anthony Fauci, to throw out the first pitch.
Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Dr. Anthony Fauci now, not in front of a large crowd, but certainly in front of a national television audience. I would have thought, given just how big a fan he is of baseball, that would have been something. But look, the man has been so busy, that is not something he probably has had time to practice.
I'm speechless, Carl. I'm speechless.
That's all you needed to know. If you saw Dr. Fauci's pitch yesterday, it was everything you dreamed of. We were trying to figure out the worst pitches ever when it comes to the ceremonial first pitch. Obama's not too good. 50 Cent ranks up there, but I believe the worst opening pitch in the history of ceremonial first pitches was probably, I believe it was the mayor of Cincinnati, who it was so bad. Remember, you're standing in front of the mound. So you're standing in front of the mound. It's just one of those things. You throw the ball to the catcher who's in front of the plate. It's not even like you're not even throwing 60 feet. The mayor of Cincinnati at the time threw the ball into the first base dugout. So Fauci wasn't that bad, but keep his day job, I think is the best way to describe that. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me, text the program as well. We've got all of this craziness and all of this chaos when it comes to the world of COVID, but now gaining more and more attention is the fact that next week, 1 week from today, those benefits for unemployment expire. So that extra $600 a week that people were getting on unemployment are going to go away, which is set to, I think, toss so many people into a financial hole that would be, for many, beyond catastrophic.
Cindy Crow has relied on the $600 weekly payment from the CARES Act since her New Orleans tour business shut down due to the pandemic.
It's been very, very difficult.
If that money goes away,
it means I'm homeless. There's no answer. I don't have an option.
Across the country, rising anxiety and unemployment claims. More than 1.4 million new jobless claims were filed last week, the first increase since late March, and far higher than the 282,000 claims before the pandemic.
Yeah, people are scared. People are starting to say, at first they thought, well, this will get me through. For some people, it was a bonus. For some people, hey, you know what? We got some money in a payment, and even though you're unemployed, you're getting extra dollar bills that are coming to you that are keeping your head above water, and in many cases, we're putting you to the good. But now, that money's gone. And you're looking around, you're saying, okay, what's the next step? Because many of these people, like 95% of them, through no fault of their own, they're unemployed. And the business or industry that they were in right now may be shut down completely or so damaged by this that there is no coming back to that the way they did pre-coronavirus. So what's the next step? And employers, hey, they had issues as well.
And without the $600 a week supplement, unemployed workers would get, on average, $383 a week. The extra money, however, has made it difficult for Gary Brammer to fully staff his Indiana restaurant.
Some of them were making more money to stay home. I didn't have enough staff to work Monday through Saturday, so I had to start closing on Mondays because I just didn't have enough people.
Yeah, that was one of the big things that was happening out there. And that's the big thing that Mitch McConnell and the Republicans are saying is we have put a situation in place where we decentivize people to get back to work. We're discouraging. Hey, you don't need to go back to work, right? Don't get back to work because the government's taking care of you. And you're like, why would I want to give up my, on average, $24 an hour to go back to a $15, $16, $17 an hour job or a $12 an hour job?
There's an argument being made by the president himself that the $600 a week is actually discouraging people from going back to work.
What's discouraging people from going back to work is the unsafe conditions in because of COVID. Americans are hardworking. They take care of their families. They don't need an incentive. And so a $600 payment is not going to be a disincentive.
It is. It is. Look, most people I talk to who are that exhausted majority, they're relaxed in life. They're not, they look at this and realize it's a pain in the ass, and they don't want to give it to somebody. They don't want to give it to a family member that potentially could lose their life. They don't want to give it to somebody who would then give it to their family member who could potentially lose their life. I think the majority of Americans, the 70-80% of people out there who are like, this is bad, but it's not as bad as the media makes it out to be, and it's also not as, flippant as maybe Trump and some other people have made it out to be. So I don't want to get back to work. I do. I had friends who were making more money, unemployed, and at the same time, what were they doing? They were getting discouraged because they feel like they were doing nothing, and it was really stressing them out because they feel like they weren't part of society. And that's a big thing. So this battle that's going to take place in the coming days and weeks, because I do believe that that's going to happen, I think there is going to be a halving of this money as well as another payment. But the reality is we can't continue to print this kind of money and pay people to not go back to work. We need to get ourselves back moving.
I do not believe it'll be at the $600 level.
It's John Kennedy. He's fun. Now, the Republicans are going to get blamed for this because it's easy, because it's political, right? It's this super, super political. It's very easy to look at Republicans and say, you guys suck. This is all your fault.
Democrats have waited for months for our Senate Republican colleagues to get serious about helping the American people who have suffered so much during this pandemic. Now that Senate Republicans have finally woken up to the calamity in our country, they have been so divided, so disorganized, so unprepared that they have struggled to even draft a partisan proposal within their own conference. It appears the Republican legislative response to COVID is ununified, unserious, unsatisfactory.
Yeah. Again, easy to blame. It's easy to blame. There's a lot of issues here that we have to look at. We're borrowing a lot of money, going into a lot of debt to pay for today. The states across the country, Peter Schiff was right. Hedge fund guy, interesting character. Check him out. He's got a good podcast. If the states had to pony up some of this money, would they be so would they be so eager to shut things down? Would they be so eager to not enforce and by enforce I mean, hey, look, it's everybody. You guys, this is what's going to happen. You guys are going to wear masks. When the feds start bailing you out, it's easier because it's other people's money to just kind of go, okay, well, we'll just kind of trot along here, or we'll shut things down. I think everybody's got to have skin in the game. We've got to figure something out. The money thing is very real, and this is the side that nobody wants to talk about, but the side that the Republicans were on very early, that the Democrats weren't on. It's funny because the Democrats weren't on the money thing early. They were on the health side. The Republicans were on the money side early, not so much the health side. Now it's kind of flip-flopped. The Republicans are talking about the health side more, and the Democrats are talking about money. Right now, this goes hand in hand. And the monies that are going to be sent out this weekend will be the last of that $600. And they're no closer at this moment in time to figuring something out. And they better do it quick. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Yesterday, Trump made a surprising adult announcement.
This afternoon, my political team came to me and laid out our plans for the convention in Jacksonville, Florida. The pageantry, the signs, the excitement were really, really top of the line. But I looked at my team and I said, the timing for this event is not right with what's happened recently, the flare-up in Florida. To have a big convention, it's not the right time, responsibly. And I said, there's nothing more important in our country than keeping our people safe. So I told my team it's time to cancel the Jacksonville, Florida component component of the GOP convention.
Yeah, and I thought that was an adult thing to do. There's still some things that have to be done, essentially the business side of stuff, which will take place early in the week in North Carolina, which will be very muted. He says he's going to give some sort of big speech, but I don't think it's going to be in front of a lot of people. I thought this was a very adult move right here from Trump. The last couple days, this whole week, he has been very... There's something that I think he's starting to realize. Those poll numbers, while they may be not as accurate, because we've seen that in the past, the reality is he also realizes, Hillary and I, we were neck and neck. She was up by 2-3 points. And by and large, most of the national polls got it right. She did win the majority of the votes. She didn't win in the right places, so he got the presidency. But the polls, in a lot of ways, were right. This is much different. Those places that were once close are further away. Meaning, when it was a dead heat in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, some of these places, it's not that way now. It's now a dead heat in places like Texas and Arizona that were dead red and maybe going purple or blue, at least in this next election. And I think he's seeing the coronavirus, the economy. He's looking around and he's making some business decisions. And he better figure out how, in the coming weeks, he starts to move in a way I think that he needs to move, which is making sure we really get a handle on this thing through governors and whatever else he needs to do, so he can have some normalcy that last 6 weeks heading into the election. Because at this point, I don't care what people say. Well, 2016 is not 2020. And those polls in 2016, by and large, got it kind of right. If you're looking at the national side of it, got it wrong on the electoral side, but right on the national side. She did win the popular vote, but he won the presidency. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Hope you're doing well on this beautiful Friday. So last night I go home, and as I do, so that's one of the things I do. So I go home, and my dog Doodle, who we talk about all the time here, he was the bounciest he's ever been. He went out and did something that he's not done in forever. I was out with the lizards for a couple hours last night because we rebuilt the zoo and the garage and everything. And he was out there with us, and it was hilarious. He was bouncing around. He was doing stuff like a puppy. And there's only one thing that we have changed in the last several months, and that's we started to give him rough greens. We thought we were going to have to put him to sleep. We were pretty sure that's what we were going to have to do. And lo and behold, we gave him rough greens as a last-ditch effort, and it's changed everything. What it does is a supplement. You sprinkle it on the dog's food, boom, away it goes. That dog food is supposed to live in a shelf in your pantry for a long time. It's not meant to be living, if you will. And that's what Rough Greens does. It gives them natural vitamins and minerals, digestive enzymes, powerful strains of probiotics, omega-3, 6, and 9. It brings the food to life. No GMOs. It's the best thing you'll ever do for your furry friend. It eliminated all of his issues. I think it'll do that and more with your little pup. Get Rough Greens today. Go to roughgreens.com/Chad. 14-day jump starts, only $14.95. It's that simple. Or call 833-MyDog88. That's ruffgreens.com/Chad, or call 833-MyDog88. Rough Greens, we make any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
Take a fake news break. Check out the really important news of the day at our website, ChadBensonShow.com. Once there, click on Chad's free podcast and get real. The Chad Benson Show, where truth and the American way live. Print free.
Lengthy time away from school and associated interruption of supportive services often results in a social isolation, making it difficult for schools to identify and address important learning deficits, as well as child and adolescent physical and sexual abuse, substance abuse, depression, and suicidal ideation. This in turn places children and adolescents at considerable risk of morbidity and, of some cases, mortality.
Trump really wants schools reopened, and one of the reasons is because it is a return to a normal way of life. Kids in school, teachers, feels like it's normal. If kids are going to school and teachers are there, and shouldn't we all be out? There's something to that. Plus, it's a good thing. The kids need interaction. Look, it sounds great, like a snow day here and a snow day there, if you will, but you can play with your friends. This is one of those situations where there isn't that interaction. And the online, I think what we're starting to realize, as much as it keeps you connected in some ways, there's still a large disconnect. So like my son Jack, 10 years old, he plays with his friends Fortnite, which would be fine and that he loves to do, but he misses the interaction in a one-to-one setting. On top of the structure of school. This week he started doing private lessons for football because his mom felt comfortable with that. His coach does lessons with other kids, but his mom felt comfortable kind of with him out throwing balls and doing drills and stuff like that because she's worried about the contacts because they've got two very close family members, his aunt who watches Jack a lot, who has a situation where she's got a double lung transplant, so she can't be in any way, shape, or form put into any kind of risk. In fact, she hasn't really left the house in about 100 days. So think about that for a second. Kids need to get back. They do. But it's got to be done safe. But one of the things that needs to be done, I don't hear is you hear the unions talk about stuff and you hear people that are out there who want this thing to go away and say, well, we should stay in until we find a vaccine. But I talked to a lot of teachers out here in Arizona yesterday, and most of them are of the mind, you know what? Let's get back to school. Let's figure out the best way we can social distance and allow the teachers to make that decision of whether or not they want to teach in person or online. Because not every parent's going to send their kid back to school. But it is a battle. And I continue to say, what about all of those people out there who can't afford a babysitter, who can't afford daycare, which is just another way of saying we're going to send the kid. You know, it's okay. You don't have to teach, but we'll send our kids here. It's huge and frustrating. And this is the next battle besides that next stimulus that we're going to be going through for the coming weeks and months. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
My big concern is that we have a federal occupation. We have federal troops coming to our city. They weren't invited here. We didn't ask them to come. We don't want them here. They're not trained for the purpose that they're here. And I was hearing from my constituents, and I'm talking about people who are doctors, people who are lawyers, restaurateurs, moms, teachers, and they were relating to me stories about Orwellian and certainly unconstitutional tactics being used by these federal officers.
How do you, did they give you specifics? I want to know about this. When you want to talk about Orwellian, let's talk about the insanity of the left, the groupthink, the changing of our words in this country. That's Orwellian. That's Orwellian. Burning down things because of political correctness or whatever it is you're doing. That's Orwellian. Do I like the fact that, first of all, can we just be, there's feds in every city before George Floyd. Do you guys understand that? There's feds in every city. Some cities, there's feds in cities. Why? Well, they've got gang issues. So the first thing that I think happened when the feds started to go in cities is when the D.C. mayor back in the day said, we got a really bad drug problem and we have a huge gang problem. You need to come in and help us with this. Chicago's police chief has asked that the feds get involved because of certain areas in Chicago that are out of control. It's like Beirut in the 80s. I mean, it's chaos and craziness. There's a shootout at a funeral. Portland, you've allowed 56 days of chaos and lunacy. You've tied the police's hands in trying to quell all this and not giving them the absolute power to say, look, protesting's fine. Once you cross a line of trying to burn things down and destroy things, well, then we're going to have to stop this. And I'm sorry. This is nuts. This is. And by the way, the funny thing about Wheeler, if you saw him, so here's the mayor of Portland. He goes out into the crowd and they're chanting to him, fascist, fascist, fascist. Remember, as we talk about Orwellian, here's a guy who's uber liberal and progressive, and they're calling him a fascist because he won't abolish the police, not defund the police, abolish the police. This utopia is insane. It is.
So I wanted to see it for myself. I went down there and I got tear gassed in my own city. We are under siege. We believe the federal presence here is escalating an already tense situation. And I believe we need to elevate it for Americans, since this is now happening in other cities, and call this out for what it is. The president is using these federal forces as his own personal militia, I believe for the purpose of political grandstanding.
You don't have any control. You don't. They don't like you. They don't like you. Do I agree? You know, I get a lot of pushback. I said one of the reasons I don't agree of sending feds in there is because there's no reason for them to be. This is a state. This is a local thing. You're going to have to let them. Well, they're destroying federal property. You don't care about that courthouse. Let's just settle down. It's a way for you to say they're out of control. Look at Antifa. Look at Black Lives Matter. They're out of control. And there is some that absolutely are. But you don't go to bed at night 3 months ago. You weren't thinking about that courthouse. You weren't. So stop with that. It's just as political for you. You like the fact that Trump goes in and stomps down. If this was President Obama and the right was out protesting and something like this happened, you'd be apoplectic. It's very much political. But Wheeler also makes it political. They all make it political. I have no problem with Trump sending the feds in. Well, the feds are already there, but sending them in to Chicago when it comes to the gang situation and the ridiculous amount of guns that are there and the easy access to it for too many of these young men who are out shooting each other and killing innocent people in a very small area of Chicago. But settle down with your ridiculousness, Mr. Wheeler, because it is ridiculous.
Now, in Portland, we had to do it because that's they're anarchists. That's a level that people haven't seen, but they're anarchists. And we've been very, very strong. And we have this Mayor Wheeler. He made a fool out of himself. He wanted to be among the people, so he went into the crowd and they knocked the hell out of him. That was the end of him. So it was pretty pathetic.
Yeah, it was. Like I said, they were screaming and yelling at him, calling him a fascist. He is running for re-election in November. And the person he's running against, she is said on record that she is Antifa. So good luck with that, Portland. Good luck with that. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program as well. Like I say, the coronavirus is continuing to still be the coronavirus. And people are wondering what's going to be happening in the coming weeks and months, especially when it comes to, well, first of all, schools, but just in general.
Right now, the virus is controlling us in many parts of the world. We're seeing quite some worrying trends in many parts of the world where many countries are seeing, really increased transmission, intense transmission. Much of the Americas right now are really in the thick of it.
Yeah, and now they're seeing spikes again in places where there was spikes early on, and we didn't have the issue. And lo and behold, guess what? they're having issues elsewhere as the spikes continue to what? Grow and grow and grow and grow. Dr. Van Kerkhove right there talking about what it's doing. It's controlling us. What can we do?
We do see signs of hope. In some countries, they have been able to control the virus. This virus is controllable with the steps that are outlined with this whole comprehensive approach that we've been talking about since the beginning of this pandemic. And we've seen many countries have success.
There are things that we can do, and it's common sense stuff at this point in time. Common sense stuff, which is you wear a mask when you're out in public in a place where it's you go, okay, this is where I wear a mask. You go into a store, this is where I wear a mask. You're going to be in a situation where you may be around several people for whatever reason. You wear a mask in a setting like that. If you're going out for a jog, if you're going to be at the park, that's ridiculous. In your house, that stuff is a joke. But we can put ourselves in situations where we distance ourselves enough and reduce the exposure while they figure something out. The reality is we're far away from sorting this thing out the way that we need it so we can return to at least a normal beginning to start to rebuild. And this is going to take a while.
Putting them in isolation prevents them from passing it to someone else. Contact tracing, finding contacts of confirmed cases, putting them in quarantine, whether this is in a special quarantine facility or quarantining at home, empowering your population, letting them know where is this virus, what can you do, what can I do to prevent myself from infection.
It's going to be very interesting. Contact tracing, that's... The whole thought process of contact tracing seems like, oh, wouldn't that be? It's impossible. Because you tell me, let's just say you got it today. First of all, how did you get it? Well, you probably couldn't tell me that. So how many people that have you come in contact with in the last week? So, or 10 days, or whatever it is that they, wherever you are in the situation that you're in. Maybe you didn't feel that you had the symptoms, so who knows how long you had it. Maybe you've had it just for a few days, so you thought, okay, maybe a week before. It's just so hard because then you've got to go to those people who then have to go get tested, and then it'll sprout out, and that's a tough thing. That's why, like everything else, we need to be proactive, which is let's get in front of this thing as best as we possibly can and prevent it so we don't need to have that kind of contact tracing. But the problem with contact tracing and its failure is the people who spread it probably the most are people who are asymptomatic who never know they have it and who don't even get tested. So it's hard to contact trace when you didn't even know you had it, never got tested for it, and you may have been a spreader. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Your Twitter, your text, you can text the program. Love hearing from each and every single one of us. Will college football return? That's one of those big things that is very interesting because I think all of us are looking toward, baseball started yesterday. Basketball starts a week from today. Soccer in Europe is back and it's getting ready to finish before the next season starts they're only going to get 3 weeks off before they have to kick off their season again. You've got golf, which has been going strong for the last several weeks. Again, no fans in any of the stadiums. But for most of America, we're looking at the sport that we're looking at the most is football, starting with college football and pro football. And what's that going to be like, Brian Kelly, Notre Dame?
We're going to play football. And I say that with the confidence based upon how well and how determined and disciplined our players are. They want to play. And they have shown over the last month the kind of commitment, the attention to detail, the discipline to play in a very difficult situation.
Yeah. He feels like they're going to play. He feels like that they're going to play football. I'd like to think that. I mean, its season's not going to be anything like you've seen before because so many big games that we would be used, usually we get one or two early, just before Labor Day, big games like the Chick-fil-A kickoff, and it'll be like Georgia takes on USC or Alabama takes on Notre Dame. So, and those games have all been canceled. You're going to stay in conference, so everybody's trying to figure out how that works. And Notre Dame didn't even have a conference.
We brought the parents in on all of the decisions that we were making relative to the health and safety of their students and their sons in this instance. So they were involved in all of our Zoom calls. They received all of the information relative to how we were going to treat their sons, how we were going to place the protocols out there to make sure that they were safe. We went through testing. And of course, all of these things, we've said many times before, we were building the plane as we were flying it too. So there were things that we had to tweak as we went, and we were in contact with parents as we went through this entire process.
We had to build the plane as we were flying it. It's going to be interesting. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson shows your Twitter. I think rookies in the NFL report next week, and then later on in the week and following week is when the veterans report. And they're not going to, well, they're already, usually in spring, in camp in football, you're in camp. So, which means it's already kind of a bubble. But no preseason games. They've reduced the amount of players that are going to be on a roster to start. So normally you watch the NFL pre-stream, you're like, man, they've like 200 players, whatever, 120 players. That's going to be reduced down big time. So you've got a better chance of making a roster, but you're only going to get that one look. So it's going to be, I hope so, right? I'm fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Your Twitter, tweet at me, text the program, Car Shield. More and more people out there figuring out a way. How do you protect yourself to the downside and give yourself upside potential in the event that something goes wrong with your car? Some of you out there are like, you know what? I maybe need a new car, but my car is lasting longer. It feels good. I don't know what to do. Car Shield is going to help you out in so many ways. Let me tell you how. First, you get 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while your car's in the shop. The shop, you choose the shop. They get them paid directly. You pay a small deductible. That's the way it works. But they will put together a plan that fits your budget and that's right for what it is you're looking for. If you've got a newer car, you're worried about the electronics, guess what? Boom, Car Shield. We'll sort out a plan for that. Car's a little bit older. You're worried more about the transmission, the AC in the car. They've got a plan for that to save you money on cover repairs. Not starting at $99 a month. Can't go wrong. 800-CAR-6000. Use code Benson. 800-CAR-6000. Use code Benson. Saves you 10% right off the bat. Make sure you tell them specifically what you're looking for. Go to carshield.com, carshield.com. Use that code Benson to save 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
If you're part of the politically exhausted majority, don't fear. Your time to be validated and rejuvenated is here. Wake up. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The more big movie delays from Disney because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
But something holds you back.
The remake of Mulan was supposed to be released August 21st. Now it's been delayed indefinitely. The upcoming Avatar sequels have been pushed back a year. Avatar 2 was due out December 2021, and the next Star Wars movie, set for December 2022, moves to December 2023. This after AMC Theaters announced Thursday it was pushing back the opening of its theaters in the U.S. from the end of the month to mid to late August.
Yeah. Here locally, Harkins is our theater chain. They said they're not going to open until at least September. Somebody asked me, of all the stuff, what's the biggest thing that I miss singularly? Because my life is pretty, I tell everybody, I socially distance kind of by nature. I have a close group of family, and, but my producer lives in Sacramento. My other producer Phil, lives in Arlington, Virginia. Here, I see that we have the same people inside of this studio for my local show and my national show. I'm by myself. So, and when I go home, the family, and that's it, and my lizards. But movies, because I usually stay up here 1 or 2 nights a week. And I haven't been because there's no traffic, so it's easier for me to just zip in and out, even though I drive a fair bit of distance. But I used to love my movie night, which was Thursday night usually. I'd stay up here. I'd leave the minute the show was over. I'd go find the movie I wanted to see. I get my popcorn, I get my hot dog, I get a drink. I'd sit down and I'd have 2 hours of just relaxation, take everything off. That's the one singularly. I mean, yeah, you missed the human contact. I haven't seen my family in months. My mom and my little sister just had a baby and I haven't been able to see her and that stuff. And, I've been fortunate because the good thing is Jack has been able to come spend a lot more time with me than ever before because he's had time off and he's been working online for school. But that movie aspect of it is huge for me. It's just, that was my Zen time. And that's been the thing I think has been one of the toughest things for me. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at me, text the program as well. Love hearing from every single one of you. Please do. Check out Chad Benson Show TV. That's on the old YouTube. It's where the kids go nowadays. Right? You could do that. A little TikTok as well. I don't get it. People like to dance. Not a good dancer like that because I don't look good in a bikini. I mean, I can dance, just not in a bikini. You don't want to see the bikini. It's not a good look. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The summer, when it's warmer, actually it's easier to reduce the infection than it's going to be in the fall. Right now, those infections are largely in young people, which means the death rate, although it's come up, is nowhere near its peak. As those infections cross over the generational boundary, which with this level of infection, there will certainly be some of that, the death rate will go back up.
Bill Gates right there. I know all you conspiracy theorists out there. I think a lot of people thought that this would be a much easier time to get a hold of this thing because that's what we were kind of taught, right? That, hey, summer's here and this is going to be fine. This thing's going to go away. It doesn't like the heat. Well, what it really doesn't like is the UV light. But what that also does is it allows people to want to be around each other more. They've emerged from a very gloomy winter, out and about doing things, having fun, getting together. The spread amongst the young adults has been large. It's interesting because you're not hearing about what's going on in nursing homes. And I don't know if it took its toll and now there's a certain amount of immunity within the homes, or if we've done a really good job of battling it to the point that it's just not having the chance to get to the homes, if you will. But we're seeing a rise in cases, but the death rate is fairly steady. I mean, look, we entered this week at, I think, like 140,000 deaths, and here it is Friday. We're at 144,000, which is, look, we'd like to have zero, right? That's just not the reality of the way that this is going to work. This isn't going anywhere soon. It's not going to get to zero. And the interesting thing for me is going to be what takes place over the next couple weeks. And why is that? Because usually the death side of things based on the infections is a lagging indicator. So while you'll see an explosion now, but we see those numbers rising, but the mortality rate or the deaths, they're not there. That's usually because it's a lagging indicator. So we may see that in, the next 2 or 3 weeks. If we don't see that, I think we can think two things. I think the damage it's done to a certain generation has come and gone, and we've done a better job protecting them, and or there's a certain amount of immunity within that group of people especially nursing homes and assisted living facilities, that maybe they've paid their price and it was early. The second thing is that we've done a better job at treating it. Part of this has been, we were all like ventilators. We got to get ventilators. Now we're treating it in a much. Remdesivir has definitely helped. The steroid thing in Europe has been a boost, from what I understand. And the other side of it is just the way that they're treating it in general, the way that they're doing just little things that they've done for years, as far as rolling patients over, putting them on their stomach, just certain things like that has helped treat this thing. That's good. Now, if we could just nip it in the bud earlier and really try to do all we can to slow the spread, I think we could be in good shape for the fourth quarter and heading into the new year. But that's a big if, because as we all know, we need what? Personal responsibility. And guess what? Americans at time lack.
Going to bars. I joke, if people went to bars and they didn't talk, it'd be okay. They'd just sit quietly and drink. But restaurants, public gatherings, we should have clamped down on those even more at the time we opened them up. And people said, hey, your cases are increasing, so you can't be opening up. And people hope that we'd get away with that because people like to come out. But we didn't. In most parts of the country, we didn't get away with it.
No, we haven't gotten away with it. And part of that is because the young do what young people do, which is what? They think they're invincible. And they go out and they do the things that they want to do. Why? Because they think they're invincible. Here's something. This is a dude going into a bar in Florida. And listen to what he's got to say.
Florida was one of the last states to close down and one of the first states to open up. And while the rest of the country is still freaking out, especially in blue states, look at this. I'm at a bar, restaurant. We're all having a good time. Not a single face mask. It's not that bad, guys.
Well, Florida is that bad. And I want everybody to realize it's not. I think everybody thinks that it's a hoax or it's not. It's just like the flu. It's not like the flu. We have therapeutics for the flu. I have to explain that to people. What does that mean? Yeah, we've got ways to treat the flu, and we've got what? We got a vaccine for the flu, which allows enough people to be exposed to it and to slow down because of a certain mass of people get it, and that's the herd immunity. And then you've got the therapeutics. Still 30 million people a year get the flu, sometimes 50 million people. This is different because of, even if the mortality rate was the same as the flu, and it's probably triple that of the flu. So while the flu is 0.01%, this is 0.03 or 4%, which is triple the flu. The difference is the potential for this thing to infect double what the flu does makes it that much more dangerous, especially when you don't have therapeutics or a vaccine. It shouldn't be rocket science, but we've made it a political battle, and then we've overthought, as we tend to do. And you've got the extremes. Never going to wear a mask because it's all a hoax, or we should stay indoors till we find a vaccine. That's silly. Masks can do a decent part of slowing the spread, and we can just be smart about, hey, you know what? I don't need to put myself in this situation. I don't need to put myself in a situation where I'm in a room with closed doors and loud talking. Maybe, just maybe, that's what I don't need to do. It's common sense. And unfortunately, because we've made it political and we've turned on one another, we don't even know what we're fighting about. Why are we fighting about a mask thing again? Why? What's the deal? Well, they're taking away your freedoms. So if you have to wear a mask in the store, your freedoms are eroding? Well, yeah, because the government's telling me what to do. No, the store could be telling you what to do. What would you say about that? Because Walmart, Target, all of these places across the country where there's no mandated mask, these stores have said what? You have to wear a mask. You must wear a mask to go in this place. I go hit my golf balls a couple days a week. You know what? There's no mask mandate here. Inside of my building where I work, there is. Inside of the building, even when you go in the lobby, they have put a mask mandate. But when I go to hit my golf balls, you know what it says? inside of this facility, you must wear a mask. Okay. They did that, not the government. We've turned this into too much political BS. And here's the thing. Yesterday, I'm over there. So I'm over there. I go hit golf balls yesterday because it was just nice enough to be hot but not gross. And they had a kids camp going on. And I was surprised. None of the kids have masks on. They were all probably Jack's age up till about 13. You know, a few younger ones, but that's pretty much about the age group that was there. None of them had masks on. And look, it's a perfect example, the snapshot of what is going to happen when you get to the point where we open schools is none of them can keep their hands to themselves. And they were all screaming and yelling. So we're just going to have to accept the fact that when we go back to school, there is going to be a certain amount of risk. And school is the next big battle that's coming, and it's building up on a day-to-day basis.
Lengthy time away from school and associated interruption of supportive services often results in a social isolation, making it difficult for schools to identify and address important learning deficits, as well as child and adolescent physical and sexual abuse, substance abuse, depression, and suicidal ideation. This, in turn, places children and adolescents at considerable risk of morbidity and, of some cases, mortality.
Yeah. And it's a weird situation with kids. The kids are, they can spread it to themselves easy. And there are studies that show they don't spread it easily to adults. And then there are some that say they do spread it easy. What it looks like is younger kids, 15 and under, really don't spread. Older kids do spread easier. But we're going to have to, at some point in time, get back to the classroom. And it's not just about the education side. There's a humanity side to it when it comes to children. Children are suffering. And I see it firsthand with my son. Starting this week, he's out playing football. He's doing private lessons with his coach. And his demeanor, he's done 3 lessons since Monday. He does it for an hour and a half, runs around. He's throwing the ball everywhere. He's having a ton of fun. His demeanor has changed overnight. There's a certain connection and physical activity and certain things that they need. A certain amount of this feels normal. And I think we're the battle that's coming, and we're seeing it in states across the country. California, you know, they're like the LA Teachers Union, the California Teachers Association. The union there is so powerful, so they're kind of they've got them in a vice for sure. Places like here in Arizona, where there's not a lot of direction and planning, it's going to be they're planning on starting school. And they're going to give you a choice. Do you want to come in or do you not? And some teachers saying, I don't want to teach in a situation like this. Because I don't want to be in a situation where I'm going to be put into harm. And I'm like, well, yeah, I understand that. And you have a choice. Maybe you don't teach. Because the person at Walmart wearing a mask, coming in contact with God knows how many people on a daily basis, and many of them, how should we say this? Well, that's all you have to say, Walmart people. And I like Walmart. And you can't and don't want to teach, even if we figure out a way to socially distance. You can't do it with the kids. This is not going to happen. In fact, you know what? The best way for you to tell the kids to socially distance is tell them to just grab each other and poke each other. Because they're going to do the opposite. So try a little reverse psychology. But this is the next big battle besides the masking up. This is what you're going to see. And I'm not talking about the political battle amongst politicians. I'm talking amongst individuals. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. At your Twitter, your text. Check out Chad Benson Show TV on the YouTube as well. Technology's done a lot of things. It's improved everything. Flying cars, you name it. Guess what? Technology's been there. Sleeping, not so much. I mean, you could go up and down, but outside of that, there's not really anything that's been a breakthrough kind of situation where it's a little softer here. No. Purple's done it. They've got a patented comfort technology, instantly adapts to your body's natural shape and style, So the way you sleep, they're really going to show you it is for everybody. No matter how you sleep. Are you a side sleeper? You sleep on your back, your front, whatever it is going to conform to your body and your sleep patterns. 2,800 open air channels, naturally temperatured, natural and neutral gel they have in there. So what that means is you're never going to sleep too hot. You're never going to sleep too cold. You're going to sleep what's right for you and your body. Soft where you want it, firm where you need it. It does everything. It's never going to sink. It's never going to lose shape. You get a 100-night risk-free trial. Free shipping, free returns. Pennies a day. It's going to last a very long time. Go to purple.com/Benson. Use the promo code Benson for a limited time, $150 off any Purple mattress order of $1,500 or more. That's purple.com/Benson. Promo code Benson to save that $150 off. Purple.com/Benson. Terms apply. Chad Benson Show.
Don't let the Washington Beltway strangle you. This is where the exhausted majority comes to refuel, realign, and reevaluate. This is Chad Benson.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? Let's take a peek. Find out what the world of the interwebs is chatting about amongst the youth of America. Lots of cool stuff. Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson going to be fighting in an actual sanctioned fight. We'll be talking about that a little bit later. Major League Baseball started yesterday. It's interesting. So we posted a picture. All the players kneeled. And this shows you what the picture does, but doesn't tell any of the story. Everybody lost their, I'm never going to watch sports again. I'm never going to do this. I'm over that. I stand for the anthem. Shows you never watched it or did any research. They all kneeled before the game. They all stood for the anthem. But that's where we are politically. You've built something into you, whatever it is, and so that's what you're going to do. You've decided that's it. You didn't watch it. I mean, you might not like baseball, and you might even I'm over the politics of it at this point in time, of everything. Would we feel different if life was normal and sports were going on all the time? I think it might be different, but because everybody's been in such a situation where we've all felt like we're in our own little private hell, and we're missing out on a lot, that something that could take our minds off it. We don't know if we want all that politics in our face. And Charles Barkley said, look, this could backfire in ways that we don't understand. But that was the funny thing. Speaking of sports, Seattle's going to get a new NHL team. They unveiled their name, their logo, the colors, and the uniforms. They will be called the Kraken. The Seattle Kraken is their name until that becomes politically incorrect. And I think they're playing at Climate Change Arena. I think that's what it is. I was like, really? That's what you're going with? Head on over to Twitter. Taylor Swift, she dropped a new album. Oh, yeah, she did. Totally. New album. Taylor Swift. Schools, coronavirus, all those things are trending. And ace the cognitive test because that was Trump. Like I said yesterday, if you guys want to hammer Trump on a lot of things, knock yourself out. Do it. Lots of things you can be upset with Trump by. I got zero problems. If you're going to bring up, I don't think he's all there. By the way, vote for Biden because cognitively he is. That's where you're going to lose a lot of people. Because, you can have a lot of arguments for or against Trump. But when I look at Trump and wonder who's there more mentally, Donald Trump or Joe Biden, I'm in the Trump camp on that one. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
He's doing this. He's creating the chaos in democratically controlled cities. So ironically, he can point to the chaos and then say, look, those democratically controlled cities are in chaos, and I and only I can stop the chaos. This is abhorrent, and it's a clear political stunt. And ultimately, what I'm worried about is that nonviolent Americans are going to be killed for doing nothing other than standing up for American democratic principles.
What about the nonviolent people that get killed by the violent Americans who are there with the nonviolent Americans standing up for those principles? Stop making sense, dude. God, you're such a Richard. That's Mayor Wheeler. He's spectacular. Mayor of Portland. Just doing just a solid job right there in Portland. Just a bang up job. Everybody gets mad at me because I don't. Everybody on the right, by and large, gets mad at me. And when I explain my position about the feds being in there, first of all, they have every right to go protect federal property and buildings, right? And stop telling me you care about the federal courthouse, because you don't. You didn't care about it 4 months ago. You don't care about it now. But it's just a way to say, look, we need Trump to go in there and smack down these crazy Antifa liberal loonies. So let's stop pretending there. But this is the government that you deserve. This is the government you have. That's my issue with it. I do have a problem if the feds are off federal property and they're apprehending people, which they're not supposed to be doing. There's where I have an issue. And you should have an issue as well. But Wheeler's done a bad job, as has many other cities across this country, by allowing certain groups to take over areas, scream and yell like petulant children, stomp their feet until they get their way. Let's be real. Go look at Minnesota. Go look at Minneapolis. They're not rebuilding that. That ain't happening. They're not coming back from that in that area. There's no way. No chance. Answer me this question. You're a small investor or businessman or woman, and you want to put some money in something. Are you going to look for a place that is lower in crime? Are you going to look for a place that you feel I'm going to get decent workers and people are going to be able to frequent my business, where I don't have to worry about being robbed or any kind of problems? Or are you going to go where? The reality is as an investor, you're going to put it in where you think you're going to get the most return on your investment. And if you feel a place is not safe and it is not desirable for people to travel, not just the people within that community, but also people that will travel to your business, to frequent your business, then what happens? There's no investment in the community. If there's no investment in the community, there's no tax revenue. No tax revenue means that people find this place non-desirable to live, to work. Money doesn't flow in. And then you have situations where you look around and you say, well, this is something I don't want. Portland has allowed over the last several years it to become a place of ridiculous rising homelessness, a huge weird world of wandering drug addicts and placating any kind of group that's out there, to the point where, there are some homeowners, look, here's the thing too. And this is the thing that makes me always makes me laugh. Everybody supports that cause, whatever cause it is, until it lands in their front lawn, until it affects them. We always talk about everybody supports climate change, but only to the tune of about $70 a year. Like, if it affects them, like, I'm all for fixing climate change if you could take away that guy's money and it doesn't really affect me. Right? Like Jenny Durkin, who allowed the Chop Chaz to happen. What happened? So you've got the Chop, you got the Chaz, whatever you want to call it, whatever it identifies as that day. She had six blocks out there, 8 blocks, whatever it was, in Seattle that was taken over, and they essentially seeded this area, and she was a disaster, and Chief Best was a disaster. So you've got this Mayor Durkin who's allowed this to happen in this bizarre world. It's more like a festival and a farmer's market and a party until people started dying. I've been to farmer's market. I can't remember the last time that they checked my ID. And they said, and had their own policing to the point where people were getting killed. Yeah. I don't remember that. Maybe, So what happens? She allows this to go on until what? Until they decide we're going to march to her house. Once they marched to her house, once it landed on her doorstep, everything changed. So a lot of people out there are sympathetic until it affects them. Then what? Well, then you're not as sympathetic. When it lands on your doorstep, when it affects you, your tune changes. So a lot of these people who vote the likes of Wheeler in and their governor, they're sympathetic and they love all the stuff that they talk about, this progressive world and all of these things. Because why? Because it's contained in one area. When it lands at your doorstep, when it affects you, when it affects your work, I can guarantee you, if these kids say, screw it, I don't want to march here. Let's take it to the suburban areas. Let's take it to the places where the big homes are. Let's take it to the places where all of a sudden those people, those progressive liberals, their tune changes when it affects them. Portland has the government it deserves. And people say, well, I want to go in and let's have Trump clean this up to show them. That's not showing them. That's cleaning up their mess. The problem is you haven't cleaned up their mess. You've cleaned up their mess in the sense that maybe you've put this thing down of the looting and rioting. I mean, please, for the love of God, go out and protest. Use your voice. That's the beauty of our country. But what ends up happening is nobody else learns the lesson. And so it repeats itself over and over again until finally people go, you know what? Maybe we need to put some other people in charge that aren't going to allow these kind of things to continue to happen. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me, text the program as well. What will happen when it comes to unemployment a week from today? That $600 extra dollars goes away.
Cindy Crow has relied on the $600 weekly payment from the CARES Act since her New Orleans tour business shut down due to the pandemic.
It's been very, very difficult.
If that money goes away,
it means I'm homeless. There's no answer. I don't have an option.
Across the country, rising anxiety and unemployment claims. More than 1.4 million new jobless claims were filed last week, the first increase since late March, and far higher than the 282,000 claims before the pandemic.
Yeah, so it's a sticky situation. It's a very sticky, weird situation when it comes to this. And I think there's a happy medium that can go on for maybe even till the end of the year, but I don't think it should go on any longer than that. Which is, we can't continue to give $600 a week to people, as well as state income, because it is a disincentive for many people to get back to work. Not everybody, but a lot of folk.
And without the $600 a week supplement, unemployed workers would get, on average, $383 a week. The extra money, however, has made it difficult for Gary Brammer to fully staff his Indiana restaurant.
Some of them were making more money to stay home. I didn't have enough staff to work Monday through Saturday, so I had to start closing on Mondays because I just didn't have enough people. Average
Hourly wage for this right now, I believe, is about, when you put everything together, it's about $25. So when you think about what the average person makes in America, depending where you are, well, it's pretty good. It is. I mean, now, places like, so you think about it, you're in like Arizona, Mississippi, because you're adding in also the unemployment from the state. So Mississippi, for instance, you're going to get about $20. In Massachusetts, you're going to make about $28 an hour. But on average, you're looking at about $1,000 a week. And the average person, depending on what state you're in, is making probably anywhere between $17 and $22 an hour. Because you're going to have big, huge, situations where people are making $60 an hour and other people are making $7 an hour. But I would say, depending on where you are in the country, it's probably between 24 and about 28. Let's just call it 25. So it's kind of a dead heat. So you wouldn't be incentivized in some ways to go back to work. That's what you would think. Here's where my call a little bit of just a smidge of BS is. A lot of people out there, even though they may make more money on unemployment, feel lost. And that's something that I don't think we take too much into account. They do. They feel lost. I have a friend who could stay home from her job and make basically double with unemployment out in California. And she's like, when she because the first couple of weeks, because she has a child who has a compromised immune system, they gave her like 3 weeks off, and she's like a week into it. She's like, I feel like I'm a loser. And that's why universal basic income will never work. Because you take away people's inherent want to do something. They're going to get pissed and they're going to get angry. And I think you're seeing a lot of that. Younger kids are totally fine with it. But I think the average person would want to be, like my sister loves making $1,000 a week in California and not having to do anything. But she's 19. I would have loved that as well. If they had told you when you're 19, you're gonna spend the next year and you're gonna make $1,000 a week and you don't have to do anything, you'd be, yeah. If you're 40, you'll probably go, I don't know. So we'll see. This is the battle that's coming right now. Can the Republicans and Democrats come together? I think they can. John Kennedy said what I've been saying.
It'll be at the $600 level.
There'll be something, but not $600. What's that look like? I say $300 and another stimulus payment, and maybe it goes to the end of the year. But by the end of the year, I think everybody, even the hardcore stay at home until we get a vaccine people, are going to realize that we got to get back at it, or this will be something that we will spend a decade trying to pull ourselves back out of. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Twitter, tweet at me. Hello, Fresh. It's delicious. What is it? It's delivered to your door. Contact free. America's #1 meal kit. 22 curated recipes each week from the best chefs around. Low calorie if you want it. Vegetarian if you want it. Family friendly options if you want it. Make any night feel amazing and taste incredible. They've got surf and turf. They've got craft beer and taste tour, gourmet feast. They got everything that you need. You set it up. You don't have to worry about meal prepping. You're going to save money versus what you would do if you're shopping, about 40%. That's huge. It's incredible. Pre-portioned ingredients, cut down on waste when it comes to food. And the other thing is it fits your lifestyle. It's contact free. It comes to you. But maybe you want extra meals. You can do that. Maybe you want to skip a week. You can do that. Maybe you want to change your delivery days. You can do that. Whatever it is, HelloFresh is flexible and will fit your lifestyle. Get started today. Go to HelloFresh.com. Use the promo code Benson. When you do, it saves you $80 and you get free delivery on your first box. Promo code is Benson at HelloFresh.com for $80 off, including free shipping on your first box. It is amazing. It tastes incredible. And you know me, if you listen to the show, I'm a very picky eater. I put it together. It's like a puzzle you can eat. It's that incredible. HelloFresh.com, promo code Benson, Chad Benson Show.
No fake outrage here, just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
Are you ready for it?
It's Christmas in July for Taylor Swift fans. Out of nowhere Thursday, the superstar singer and songwriter said she's releasing a new album tonight at midnight. It'll be called Folklore. Swift writing on Instagram that she wrote and produced the whole thing while in isolation the past couple of months, though she did get some help. Collaborations with Jack Antonoff and Bon Iver. Swift has been pretty methodical about releasing an album every 2 years. Folklore will be out less than a year after her last release, Lover.
Was he saying Bon Iver?
Bon Iver.
I feel like he was. Is that what it is? Not Bon Iver, it's Bon Iver?
That's the way they used to pronounce it on Northern Exposure.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not hip like that. I'm not hip. Bon Iver feels like a concert you would go to that has like the Decemberist. I don't know any of your music. 323-538-2423. I was reading yesterday that, watching Kanye, I've said it, we joke about Kanye, but watching him have this manic meltdown and then hearing that, they'd like to get him hospitalized, and then he's coming out saying, if you guys try to hospitalize me, I'm going to expel all your secrets. It's a tough watch. It is, but it's hard not to watch. Like, it's tough to watch, but it's hard not to watch. And we will. And speaking of watching, hard not to watch what's going to happen with Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein, because that's going to be must-see court TV as well.
What the court is basically doing here is saying, I am ruling that this is going to be released if there is no appellate decision that overrules me. But any of the names in there are going to be informed that this is going to be made public, and they'll have an opportunity to challenge that. So at least for now, anyone who's in there, and there are over 100 names that are referred to as John Does, will get an opportunity to make an argument about why their names shouldn't be made public.
And there's a bunch of documents, and those 100 plus are all powerful men. All powerful men. And then you have the other side of, like, how do you put a case together in a case that's out there for the world?
There are always ways when you're looking for jurors to find people who haven't been following cases like this that closely, particularly when you're talking about, the details of what was released and what it said. People have a lot of other things to do in their lives. And in case after case I've seen in jury selection, they're able to find people who have not followed these cases so closely. And most importantly, the legal standard is that they haven't developed an opinion about guilt or innocence.
Dan Abrams of Live PD fame, who has to revert back to doing all his law stuff. Sucks. Probably working out more, too. I don't know. Here's my I don't know if I want a juror that is that uninformed, if that makes sense. I would like my jury, if I'm a prosecutor or defense attorney, well, I guess it depends, to be somewhat informed. I've never heard of people. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. Text the program as well as the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
A majority, 55% of all American adults, are against public schools in their community reopening with in-school instruction. But the ABC News Ipsos poll also found 44% of adults with school-age children are willing to send their kids back to school. Some Indianapolis mothers are conflicted. Shannon Singer-Mann says her son has a lung condition and will be doing e-learning.
I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that he stays safe and healthy.
While Amber Starrett said her kids asked to go back to the classroom.
I'm not really wanting to, but they said, Mom, we're not doing very well in e-learning.
Nearly 6 out of 10 parents are concerned that their child is falling behind in their education.
Because they are. Because they are. We need to figure out a way to do this safely. There's a lot of people out there that cannot afford a daycare situation. Grandma and grandpa aren't an option because of the risk of COVID and potentially passing it on. There's so many things and variables that play into this. I think you're more apt to say, look, I always say experiences are going to dictate that move that you're going to make next. Where you might think, I'm not sending my kid to school. Well, you don't have to. Your job's not asking you to come in every day, and so you're able to work from home, or maybe you're just in a position where you don't have to work. That's an easier thing for you to do. But for those out there, the men and women out there who've got a kid that's school-aged, you're seeing a lot of different things. Just the psychological side of it with children is huge. The interaction, so many things that go on at school that isn't just the learning, that's the book learning, if you will, but so many other things that the problem solving, the relationships, all of those things that are huge. That's not happening, and it's hurting children. And this is the next battle. So we've had the mask battle. Now we're moving into this battle, which is schools. And I think, what about, and the thing that's not being talked about, and I think schools will probably do a little bit better job e-learning. I mean, they were kind of thrown into it in the deep end. And you've also got a lot of kids out there who maybe you have one laptop in the house, but you got 3 kids. You're like, oh, yeah. Or maybe you even have 2 laptops, but you got 3 kids and you have to do work. And that's on one of those. Or maybe you don't have access to any of those things. But there's no doubt that it really hurt children because they weren't set up for this.
Online learning has never been an effective replacement for in-person learning. Being at the school, being on the campus is very, very important. As we race toward the completion of a vaccine and therapeutics, the responsible path is to shelter those at highest risk while allowing those at lower risk, much lower in the case of young children, to resume work at school, and as long as everyone practices vigilant hygiene and social distancing. We want that.
Yeah. I don't know what schools are going to do. I think by and large across the country, schools are going to do kind of you choose your path. Maybe there's a hybrid. Maybe there is online. For us, with my son Jack, both his mom and I we would have no problem sending him to school at all. We're not worried about whether or not he contracts this and whether or not he would survive it. I think the data shows, and data, as we all know, is mixed, but data is pretty clear about this, that the flu is more dangerous to children than this is. But he spends a lot of time with his aunt because his mom works. And because he spends a lot of time with his aunt, who had a double lung transplant about 3 years ago, that's not really an option. So he's going to do online learning. And we're building things outside of that with his football. He's doing private lessons with his coach, stuff like that, where he's getting interaction, which has made a tremendous difference. In a week, he has changed because he's out playing football and doing things that he loves again that he wasn't doing before. And like, he and I can go out and play catch when he's out here. We'll shoot hoops, but it's not the same as the structured environment of, because he wants to throw me the ball and have me run routes. He doesn't want me to put him through drills. And that's what his coach does. And that's right for us right now. But if he was out here with me, I'd have zero problem sending him to school if it was available. And I don't know if it's going to be available. But this is the next battle that we're going into. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. We're a week away from potentially having that $600 a week gone. And I don't know how close they are to getting something done. One thing I do know that the right and left are close to doing is arguing.
Democrats have waited for months for our Senate Republican colleagues to get serious about helping the American people who have suffered so much during this pandemic. Now that Senate Republicans have finally woken up to the calamity in our country, they have been so divided, so disorganized, so unprepared that they have struggled to even draft a partisan proposal within their own conference. It appears the Republican legislative response to COVID is ununified, unserious, unsatisfactory.
Chuck Schumer doing the usual Chuck Schumer thing that he does. But he's right about one thing. The Republicans are struggling to put something together that they can agree on their own side. $600 a week is pretty much a non-starter in the continuing of unemployment benefits from the federal level to go along with your state level unemployments. So that seems to be that kind of non-starter there for that. But one side wants a payroll tax, which is what they favor. Mitch McConnell doesn't want a payroll tax because he's like, these are people who are unemployed. How's that benefit them? So they've got to come to some sort of agreement when they push forward. Mnuchin hinted at a 70% replacement for your salary is kind of what they're looking at. So if you made $1,000 a week, you'd get, total, you'd get $700. Not from the feds, but as a total, I believe, is the way they're looking at that. Because they don't want it to be an incentive to stay home. The Democrats want everything the status quo. Send people a check and then send them more checks, and we'll go from there.
Tomorrow, the moratorium on evictions expires, exposing millions of Americans to the risk of being kicked out of their homes through no fault of their own. And over the weekend, many states will send out their final enhanced unemployment checks. But here we are. Their proposals won't include food assistance for hungry kids. It won't include rental assistance or extend the moratorium on evictions. It won't provide hazard pay to essential workers. It won't make the necessary investments in communities of color that have been ravaged by this virus, disproportionately so. And from what we know, it won't even include funding to ensure our elections are safe this fall.
Here's what we need. You need a clean bill. I know it's hard because everybody wants, like you heard 20 things there. Let's get a clean bill done when it comes to the next stimulus. We don't need all the other stuff. You guys can fight that out over the coming weeks. When it comes to moratorium on landlords, I've spoken to several landlords, and they're like, what's funny is they want us not to evict anybody, but we're not getting any money. And we're having to continue to pay our mortgage, or we've gone into forbearance, but that money's coming due. It's an ugly mess. And both of them need to fight this out. The problem is when I hear them both speak, I hear they're so far away from where they want to be. And they're going to drag this thing out probably longer than it needs to be dragged out, which is pretty much standard for the world of politics. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me, text the program as well. If you didn't hear last night, Major League Baseball started. So if that starts, what do you need to do? Well, you need to have somebody throwing out the first pitch. Now there's nobody in the stands. So you got nobody in the stands, and that's already eerie. It's like playing in a museum or a mausoleum. It's just weird. But Fauci threw out the first pitch for the world champion Washington Nationals as they took on the New York Yankees.
And now one of the more well-known Washington National fans, Dr. Anthony Fauci, to throw out the first pitch.
Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Dr. Anthony Fauci now, not in front of a large crowd, but certainly in front of a national television audience. I would have thought, given just how big a fan he is of baseball, that would have been something. But look, the man has been so busy, that is not something he probably has had time to practice.
I'm speechless, Carl. I'm speechless.
Yeah, you should be. It was awful. He, just a bit outside was probably the best way to describe it. Not the worst I've ever seen. That will go to the mayor of Cincinnati, whose pitch was undescribable. Let's just say I don't even know if he was left-handed. Maybe that was his problem. I think he tried to throw it left-handed. All I know is that if you were running to first base, you'd have probably been hit by it. Obama's was pretty bad. 50 Cent ranks up there, too. 50 Cent, if you've not seen it. So here's 50. Partying at the club. And he didn't even throw a grounder. He threw a ball that, stuck in the ground. So far, of all the recent ones over the last several years, plus, it was Bush. Bush was Bush had the best one for sure. What'd they say? What was the catcher? Was it Pag, the catcher? I think it was, or Girardi or somebody, Jorge Posada, somebody who just said to him, "Dude, you better throw a strike or they will boo you." And he did. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson shows your Twitter. CarShield, saving you money for your covered repairs. Simple and easy to sign up. Go to carshield.com. Use code Benson. Saves you 10%. Or better yet, call them 800-CAR-6000. Use that code Benson to save 10%. So when you call CarShield, you explain to them exactly what you're looking for. Maybe you're in a situation where you're worried about your car's air conditioner, transmission, engine. You don't really have any electronics. They've got a plan that's right for you that fits your budget. Plans start as low as $99 a month. Maybe your car's a little bit more modern and you've got all the gadgets and you want to make sure that those things are protected. They've got a plan that's right for you. Either way, you get 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while your car's in the shop. The shop, you choose the shop. Take it to the dealership. They get them paid directly. Nothing out of your pocket. You just pay that small deductible and away you go. It's so worth it. Trust me on this. And as cars go longer and people are looking at ways to save money, protect yourself with CarShield. 800-CAR-6000. Use code Benson to save 10%. 800-CAR-6000. Code Benson saves you 10%. Or go to carshield.com. Use that code Benson to save 10%. A deductible will apply. Chad Benson Show.
You go, boy.
This isn't about right or left. This is just about right and wrong.
Right you are, Chad. The Chad Benson Show.
It will be going with the Washington football team. That will be the name of the team while it solicits the opinions of players, alumni, fans, customers, sponsors, the community to try to see what it should be using for a nickname in the future. But with the season getting ready to get underway, with players getting ready to go to training camp at this point in time, they had to effectuate the change.
Yeah. Shefty there. So the Washington football team. So I can't wait when the Cowboys, the Giants, the Eagles, can you imagine this? Sunday night on NBC. The Cowboys take on the Washington football team. But what else?
Uniform colors will stay the same. They are burgundy and gold. The Redskins logo that was on the helmet will be replaced by a number, the player's number on the helmet.
So there's that. It's not going to be forever, as we all know. Producer Phil, what are the you being out there and you being a former Redskin, now Washington football team fan, what is the leader in the clubhouse? Because this has been kicked around for years.
What do you mean? What is the leader?
Like, what is it? Is it the Warriors? Is it the?
I think it was the Red Tails.
The Red Tails. That'd be interesting. The Red Tails. Why not just the Reds? Even though they're burgundy, which is weird. So I don't know about that. The Yellows, the Yellow Jackets. Can you do that? Yellow Tails, because they got yellow in there? I don't know. I just know that it's just... Look, I have no problem with this, and I'm totally fine with them getting rid of it. And I'm surprised that he pulled the trigger, if you will, on allowing these kind of things to take place as fast as they did. But at the end of the day, good. Let's just move on and figure out what you're going to be called. Doesn't matter. I mean, you can call yourself champions for all. It's not going to change anything. Although I'm quietly hoping they have a good year. Usually about the first quarter of the first preseason game, I'll get a text from producer Phil who says, I can't wait till next year.
There's always next season.
There's always next season. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program again. Love hearing from every single one of you. Me, my next season for sports is, well, it's already here. I love golf, and football's not too far away, but I'm missing something.
We all believe we'd run into the burning building.
With word earlier this week that Warner Brothers was moving Tenet off its August 12th opening date, now AMC Theaters, the largest chain in the world, is pushing back its reopening. Originally planned for the end of the month, AMC now says theaters will open again in mid to late August in the U.S., mainly because there just aren't big studio films to show. With Tenet out of the running, the first big studio release is now Disney's Mulan, scheduled for August 21st, but that could change again as well.
I don't. It just sucks. It sucks. So I don't know when it's going to open again. That's my big miss of all the singular things. Because, I still hit golf balls. I still work out. None of that stuff's changed. I'm kind of naturally a person who's social distance anyways. That was my big thing. I probably saw 30, 40 movies a year, if not more. And every Thursday night, I go to my theater that I go to because I end up staying up here normally in the Valley because I live so far away. And that's my big miss. So that sucks. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
I want to caution everyone, do not underestimate the evil genius that is Donald J. Trump. There are many examples throughout history, whether it's Henry V facing the French on St. Crispin's Day. They outnumbered him 4-1. He was supposed to lose, and he didn't. Or jump ahead to the 1995 NBA playoffs. The Knicks are ahead with 15 seconds left, way ahead of the Indiana Pacers. And Reggie Miller scores 8 points in 9 seconds with 15 seconds left.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was great. I don't remember the battle on St. Crispin's Day. I wasn't around to see that. That sounded like that was fun too. There's Michael Moore talking about Trump and the potential for who knows what. I'll say this: I don't know what's going to happen if the vote was today. I think Trump gets boat raced. I think it's closer than maybe the polls say, but the polls got it right nationally with Hillary. The Electoral College is what you need to talk about. The polls got it right, though, because she won. I mean, by and large, most of the polls had her up about 3-4%, and she won by about that when it came to the popular vote. But she didn't win. The Electoral College is what you need.
All the Knicks fans sat there so overconfident, licking their chops. Yeah, we got this one in the bag. Then boom, boom.
Yeah, and not only that, but on St. Crispin's Day, people were like, oh, my God, I can't believe this happened. Oh, no, not again. That's something I do. Did he go from St. Crispin's Day battle to the Knicks game in 95 with Reggie Miller? I think that's when he did his famous choke sign, Spike Lee. But Trump has some work. Let's not pretend that Trump doesn't have work. If you live in a bubble, right? Like you say, well, all my friends are voting for Trump. Okay. Do you know everybody in the world? No. Okay. So do you surround yourself with mostly people that you have a lot of things politically in common with? Well, yeah. So that shows you that all your friends kind of all think the same way, but you do realize there's more than just your friends. I have a myriad of friends. Most of my friends I would say some of my friends are conservative. Some of them are very libertarian. A lot of them are like me, very independent. But then I got a ton of friends who are very progressive. In fact, some of my best friends, if not my best friends, are uber progressive, minus my uncle, who's the world's biggest troll. and the biggest Trump supporter in the world. He's also the biggest contrarian. So, but most of my friends, they're like, I'm not going to vote for Trump. Some are like, I don't want to vote for either of them. Some will. It's funny because I think a lot, if you ask conservatives who look at Trump, don't like what he's done, but don't like the chaos. In a dream world, Biden wins, Republicans pick up seats in the Senate, win back the House, prepare for 4 years, take the presidency back. That is like, ooh. That would be great for some. Because that way, Biden and the crazy super far left, they don't really have any, they're not going to be able to do any damage when they're not going to be able to get anything through. Here's an ex-Trump supporter.
I voted for Donald Trump in 2016, and I swear I will not make that mistake again. In fact, I owe everyone an apology. I owe the entire world an apology. In probably January, February, I heard that the first case of coronavirus was in Venice. I said to everybody around me, if it's in Venice, it's in the United States. The administration didn't take it seriously from the very beginning. They continued to come on TV and say low risk to Americans, 15 cases going down to 0, all this BS that I knew at the time was BS.
By the way, who was the first person to get out in front of it and say that low risk to Americans? That was Dr. Fauci. So let's just remember that. Nothing for us to worry about. We'll keep an eye on it, but it's low risk to Americans. So I'm not going to blame that one on Trump. I have plenty of criticism for the way that I think at times he's handled some of this stuff. But I think there's plenty of blame to go all around when it comes to this.
I didn't come around to voting for Biden until George Floyd. And it was the reaction, or I guess you could say non-reaction, to Americans screaming out for justice. And then, of course, gassing peaceful protesters. I mean, what country do we live in? This is insanity. Think back to 2016, and he ran on Drain the Swamp. He is the swamp. He is the scum at the bottom of the swamp. We cannot give this man another 4 years.
So we'll put you down as a maybe. But you've got a lot of other people, too, that are bouncing and going the other way. And you have a lot of... Here's the other thing. This race isn't between Joe Biden. It's Trump's to win or lose. The only person who evokes an emotion... And if I'm the Democrats, this is what I'm doing. I'm telling the AOCs of the world and the Bernie Sanders and everybody else, you guys stand down. We don't need to hear you. I don't want to hear you talking about open borders and socialism. If you want to win this, you shut your pie holes. Because if you give them people in the center, the people that are the deciding factor in this, not the dyed in the wool, in the trenches, red and blue. I'm talking about the people that will sway this. If you give them an emotion of, I can't stand Trump, but they're talking about open borders. They're talking about raising taxes and universal basic income and putting on so many regulations that they're talking about stuff that's just nuts. That's going to get them out. And the more that they talk, Biden's best thing is he's been fairly absent. He's trying to run out the clock. But if I'm them, man, I'm just saying you guys need to be quiet. You need to be quiet. Speaking of AOC, so she's still pissed. This whole thing with what took place. So if you guys didn't see or hear, apparently this Yoho character called her something, and she's very upset about it.
There were reporters in the front of the Capitol, and in front of reporters, Representative Yoho called me, and I quote, a bitch. These were the words that Representative Yoho levied against a congresswoman.
So, Theodore Scott, yo ho, Ted from Florida, apparently called her that. And it's funny to look at like the mainstream or established media. The defense of women and the tear down of blah, 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 blah. He says, I didn't say, I didn't say what she said, I said. Well, that doesn't matter. I mean, the narrative is that you did say it. And the apology there, she then went into her, had to become the most victim of victimized.
I am here because I have to show my parents that I am their daughter and that they did not raise me to accept abuse from men.
Here's the thing, right? Like, that was not, if he did say it, look, if you want to call her ideas badass crazy, I'm okay with it. There's a better way to conduct yourself. If you did call her a blankety blank, there is absolutely a better way to conduct yourself. It's saying all of that. The defense of yourself as a victim and like, oh, I'm standing up. Here's something I'm going to tell everybody. There are women that are blankety blanks. There are men that are blankety blanks. Just because it's this whole, like, I'm a victim now. Look at me. I'm going to defend myself in this situation. And it's crazy. Like, we've done this now where okay, you're now a protected species. So if somebody, even if you're horrible to them, or even if they disagree with you, if they say something to you, and if he did say it, he's a jerk, right? But he's a jerk. And that's the worst thing you've been called, really? You've never said anything bad about anybody else? And then of course, they debated over what? The apology.
People should not be called names. People should be treated with respect, regardless of philosophical differences. And I stand by that. And I think it's appropriate that he apologized. I just think in a new world, in a new age, we now determine whether we accept when someone says, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, that's just what it is. Because it's no longer about, I'm sorry. It's about, okay, how sorry are you? What's your punishment going to be? How can I, this is the cancel culture we live in. And I defend AOC on more than a few occasions. She's the dumbest, she's not the dumbest person in the world. She's not. Quite the opposite. She is. She's using what she got, and she's made a name for herself, and she's building up the power that is going to carry her on and continue in this world of craziness and lunacy of politics. And he apologized. People say stuff in stupid times, especially when they're arguing. Like I said, if you making it personal, you've lost the plot. You've made it emotionally stupid. You can call her ideas badass crazy. I've got no problem with that because I think a lot of her ideas are badass crazy. I think a lot of stuff she says is borderline just craziness. Should make it personal. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us. Valor Gold. ValorGoldGroup.com/Chad. Go there. Let me tell you something about gold. You go look at what's going on in the world of gold. It's through the roof. You've got volatility in the market. And by the way, a marketplace that is completely overbought on earnings that are suspect at best. And I feel like it's a house of cards and it needs to settle down. And that means a sell-off at some point in time. What you really have are a few companies doing really well and everybody else kind of dragging them along. The volatility is great. The dollar's weak. Now's your chance to invest wisely in gold. Valor Gold Group has over 50 years of experience in the precious metals industry. It's going to help you to diversify your portfolio and your investments, show you how you're going to grow those investments and protect yourself to the downside. Gold and silver qualifies for your IRA. Call Valor today, 800-202-6936. You're going to get a free exclusive copy of the #1 way to protect your wealth with confidence. Visit them online at valorgoldgroup.com/Chad, VALOR, goldgroup.com/Chad. They will treat you right, and they will show you things that will open up your eyes ValorGoldGroup.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
Experiencing separation anxiety? That's dumb. Check out Chad 24/7 at his website, ChadBensonShow.com, and on iTunes, free. The Chad Benson Show. Never feel lonely again.
I love romance. I think it's great. Two people falling in love. Two people that would do anything for their other half. Take, for instance, Wendy Wayne.
State police say 51-year-old Wendy Wayne from South Rockwood was arrested Friday after attempting to hire a hitman to kill her ex-husband. They say she contacted a fictitious website called www.rentahitman.com and completed a request form. Instead, police say the owner of the site called them.
I'm very surprised that somebody thought that this website was a true website, that you could do this.
Yeah, that's how sweet Wendy was. What I love about Wendy is that she thought there was a website. Back in the day, was it Soldier of Fortune people go to? You could go on Soldier of Fortune and find stuff like that. If you're really serious about it. Biker bars, maybe? Something like that. A few other things. Or you could probably try to figure out how you get to the dark web. But this is just me. And Wendy showing love here. She thought, the internet has everything, so I'm going to Google it.
Detectives say an undercover operation in a Monroe County parking lot revealed Wendy was serious, even willing to cover extra costs to travel out of state where her ex-husband lives.
We used a state trooper posing as the hitman, and there was a conversation, and she provided some funds for travels, and at that time, an arrest was made.
Arrested for solicitation to commit murder, she was locked up at the Monroe County Jail where she remains.
Yeah, she sounds like a winner. Can't believe she's single. Now, here's the funny thing. The guy, this isn't the first time something like this is just nuts.
The owner of the site stated he's helped to stop more than 130 murders.
I most definitely think that a life was saved, and doing a news story on this, I'm pretty sure that when this news story gets out, that some other lives might be saved by this.
The case against Wendy Wayne is still open, and Michigan State Police are asking anyone who could have more info to call them right away.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? That is nuts. That is nuts. Wendy is spectacular. Oh, Wendy. I can't believe she's single. She's a looker, too. Oh, my God. Why did he leave you? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. It's your Twitter. It's Friday. I love Friday. It's the weekend. But you know one thing I loved? Fridays? Because Phil and I were talking about this. We go home, we relax, and we have routines. One of my big things on Friday is I loved Live PD. Well, get this. Since June 10th, Live PD is no longer on the air because of George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, all of these things that took place. And then we got to stop this. Cops, that's off the air. And then Live PD had to go, and they fought to keep it. And oh my goodness me, it spawned all kinds of other stuff that came from it. But since then, A&E has lost half of its audience across the board. Think about that for a second. You lost half of your audience. Gone. That's, I said, you watch, at some point in time, somebody's going to sit back and they're going to rethink and go, uh-oh. Once it calms down, we're going to have to figure out a way to bring this thing back because we can't have this. Advertising dollars. You ready for this? Last year, low budget, $300 million in advertising. $100 million in the first quarter. Money talks. Money talks. And I have a feeling sooner rather than later, they're going to reevaluate this. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Oh, solid week. Put that to bed. I want you guys to have a solid, fun rest of, your day and weekend. Be kind, be good to each other. Follow along with me on all across the social medias. Chad Benson Show TV on YouTube, at Chad Benson Show on Twitter and Facebook, and, of course, the Insta, as the youngsters would say. Be blessed, be good to each other. We'll do it again on Monday, as always. Night, night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.